The LA Kings are shocking everybody to start this season with an emerging star on the blue line and an old star reaching back into his bag of tricks. This LA Kings team has been on an absolute roll to start this season, and in this video I'm going to break down how they can keep this going and how important this is going to be come playoff time, so you're not going to want to miss this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into it, we got to say that we're on the road for 5,000 subscribers. We're about 200 subscribers away. So if you're watching this, you want to keep up to date on everything NHL and LA Kings, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. But with that said, let's jump right into the first topic of this video, which is the main topic: the Kings are a wagon. And yes, there's no other way to say this than the LA Kings have been a wagon so far to start this season. They are playing very, very exceptional hockey to start this season, and it's been on the back of a lot of young talent that's emerged here in LA. And in the last couple of years, it kind of seems like LA has always been in the mix come playoff time. They've been one of those teams that fly under the radar and becoming the ultimate dark horse in the NHL every single season. I don't know if it's because they're in LA and they have so many other sports teams to cover rather than their hockey team, the Kings, but I do think this team is among one of the best in the West, and the reason to that is because of this emerging star, and you've probably seen him in the thumbnail, and if you're a Kings fan, you know who we're about to bring up. We're talking about Brandt Clarke. I mean, this guy right now is among the top 5 defensemen in points for the entire season so far. He's up there with guys like Josh Morrissey, Cale Makar. I mean, he's on a different level at 19 points, but Brandt Clarke right now at 11 points puts him up among some of the best players on the blue line in the entire NHL, which is huge. Because why? Because this kid is still 21 years old. He is still just reaching that potential and has the potential to go even higher at this age by learning new tricks of the game, by adjusting to the NHL level. We've seen him do things that are absolutely crazy, like that spinorama pass to Kopitar just the other night. That highlight will be playing on your screen right now. Also scoring overtime winners. He has done everything to contribute for this LA Kings team in the absence of a big blue liner in Drew Doughty. I mean, if you just look at their defense core right now, obviously he is playing the second line with Joel Edmondson, which I really like this pairing and how they complement each other, because Joel Edmondson's that big guy who's going to lay the hits, block the shots, but then you also got Brandt Clarke, who's becoming one of the best offensive defensemen in the entire NHL on that line with them. So you have a guy who's so offensive and a guy who's so defensive. Their games are going to complement each other so much, because Edmondson can cover on the point if Clarke wants to pinch in and make one of those crazy passes, which we've seen this season, but we also get to see, you know, Brandt Clarke step up, be more offensive, and kind of, and you know, Edmondson kind of dip back a little bit on the offensive side, which I think when you have two guys like that on your team, it's very, very complimenting each other. And you know, when you're looking at this defensive pairing right now, obviously you're not seeing Drew Doughty in the top pairing. You have Gavrikov, who I think has played well to fill that role of Drew Doughty, but when you're missing such a key player to your lineup, it is going to be a big hit for your team every night. So I think what they're trying to do here with Brandt Clarke is to try to, you know, make him be Drew Doughty's replacement, because obviously Drew Doughty and Brandt Clarke have two very separate games. I mean, Drew Doughty has had seasons where he's had high point totals, but the more side of Drew Doughty's game is his stick work, his poke check, his shot blocking, his hitting ability, which Brandt Clarke, that's his weaker side of his game. And if we just bring that up one more time here, his Mikey Anderson is up there on that top line, and that's who Drew Doughty's partner has been throughout last season. And, you know, Mikey Anderson leans more two-way offensive than a guy like Drew Doughty does. So if you want to move Brandt Clarke up to that top line, I think you need to move a defensive defenseman up with him. So I think you would have like a Joel Edmondson type of guy up on that top line, with a guy like Brandt Clarke. And the thing that's so special about Brandt Clarke is his right-handed shot. I mean, we know how hard it is to find a great right-handed shot defenseman in the NHL. They're very few and hard to come by. So when you have one that's such a young talent, that's an emerging star within your organization on that right side, it just adds levels and levels to your team, because you can go out and get a solid left defenseman anywhere, but you can't go out and get a great right-hand defenseman for very, very cheap. And this is what they're getting right now. I do think Brandt Clarke is going to get a monster contract whenever that time does come, but right now he's looking phenomenal. Another big part of his game before we move on here is the power play. I mean, if you look at this top power play right now, we have Brandt Clarke quarterbacking this power play, which he is doing very well. He has 3 power play points so far this season with a power play goal. And, you know, you have guys like Laferriere, Kopitar, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, who have really, and Kempe, who have really complemented this power play unit, where you have Kopitar, who's a guy who loves finding a home in front of that net, and Laferriere, a guy who's kind of came out of nowhere and has a very good shot, with a Brandt Clarke, who is more offensive and can quarterback that power play by passing the puck with ease. So I think this is going to be very special for the LA Kings going forward, just having such a young guy at 21 years old, whose ceiling is so high right now, playing so good, a point per game player so far this season for this team on the blue line, and that's very hard to come by. So when you have a talent like that, you want to keep him around. But as we alluded to in the beginning of this video, there's been an old star reaching back into his goodie bag here this season, and of course, LA Kings fans know that is Anze Kopitar. Anze Kopitar has 12 points in 11 games so far this season for the LA Kings at 37 years old. That is right. 37 years old. It is seeming like age does not affect Anze Kopitar. He's going out, he has 4 goals and 8 assists, and a couple of those assists have been beauty saucer passes full length of the ice, and has really put his teammates and line mates into great scoring opportunities with his playmaking ability this season. But we know Anze Kopitar is a great two-way forward. He's been great with his defensive side, his forechecking ability at that center position for years and years, and it just seems like this guy kind of is reminding me of a Jaromir Jagr right now, where at 37 years old, he's putting up over a point per game, and it looks like there's no slowing down for him as well. And another big reason for that is he's getting very close to catching a record. That's right, Anze Kopitar is currently at 1,223 career points. Marcel Dionne, his record for LA was 1,307 points, which puts Kopitar 85 points away from reaching that record that Marcel Dionne set way back in the day for the LA Kings. So I really do think that Kopitar is chasing this record and wants to etch his name in the hockey books, in the history books, as the best LA Kings player of all time. Obviously, you know, that's hard to do when you have Wayne Gretzky who's there in the record books, but in terms of, you know, having the highest point total in team history, I think there's no better deserving guy to have this than Anze Kopitar. He's helped bring cups to LA. He's been there his whole career. That is his home. I think getting this record at 85 points, could he do it this season? I definitely think he could. There's no doubt in my mind that Anze Kopitar could reach this threshold this season with the way he's playing so far. Yes, I do suspect him to maybe slow down a little bit because of his age, but right now it seems like age is not affecting him, and he's playing great hockey for this team, just leading this team into the second place in the Pacific Division, right behind the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, this team has been exceptional so far this season. And moving on here, I'll just look at the top point getters so far for the LA Kings this season. One guy that I really wanted to point out here was Alex Laferriere. I mean, this guy last season had a very decent season and kind of got his name out there into the hockey ether as, you know, a guy who's going to step up and be a great player in this league. But this season, he's been on a tear. He's at 23 years old as well. So you got Brandt Clarke at 21 and Laferriere at 23. Guys who are just breaking out and emerging as great talents for this team right now. So far this season, he has 9 points in 11 games, 6 goals, 3 assists. Like I mentioned earlier, Laferriere is so good at shooting. He has a very great shot and setting up on that power play. He hasn't netted a power play goal so far this season, but I do see that coming with a guy with such a great shot like that. There's only a time for it's only a matter of time until he gets one on the power play. But I do think for you Kings fans, you guys should be very excited for the future with Laferriere and Brandt Clarke there. I think these guys are going to be fun players to watch for you guys going forward. Obviously, you also have guys there like Kempe, who has had 10 points through 11 games, but we expect this from Kempe. Maybe not this hot start, but he has been phenomenal for this team starting the season. Kevin Fiala, a guy who is in that bottom six, who's just been creating a lot of offense for this team so far as well. And, you know, like, we'll just bring up the lines here. I mean, the lines, they have been rotating them throughout this season, but this is kind of what we're looking like. They're looking good. I really like this top line of Kopitar, Kempe, and Turcotte. I think that those guys complement each other very well. But there is something I did want to touch on in this video before we end, is Quinton Byfield. I know this was a guy who Kings fans were very excited to be for, and very excited to see him be the next star for this team, being, was it former second overall draft selection, and at 22 years old, he does have 5 points in 11 games, which, you know, you might maybe want a little bit more production out of him, especially, you know, when you got Laferriere there, who is looking like the better prospect right now at this point in regards to forward play for this team. But he does have 5 assists. He has contributed. He is a bigger body, and I really do like that side of Byfield's game. And I've been a guy who's really been on the side of Quinton Byfield, and I think it's only a matter of time before we see this guy blossom. I think it's just getting him on the right line, getting the right line mates around him for him to be successful. And I can't wait to see him kind of shoot out of the cannon here and be great for this LA Kings team. But right now, I gotta say, Laferriere is looking like the better prospect in my eyes, but I still do have faith in Quinton Byfield. And before we close here, just gotta touch on the goaltending. The goaltending hasn't been the best this season. I mean, if we look at it, Darcy Kuemper is 3-0-2 with an .895 save percentage and 3.16 goals against. You would like to see the goaltenders be up in the 900s, and, you know, but it doesn't matter because they are still scoring goals. They are still winning games with, you know, it's not lackluster save percentage. I mean, high 800s isn't too bad. I mean, David Riddick hasn't been too bad for this team either. He's 3-3 with an 870, but I think every team has kind of struggled with goaltending this season, besides, you know, the big guys like Gustafsson and Hellebuck and all these guys who are just, you know, phenomenal goaltenders. But when we're looking at other goaltenders in the league like UC Saros and guys like this, they are all struggling to start this season. So I do expect that we will find a pure number one emerge here in LA, and when that happens, this team is going to be rolling even harder than what they are right now. But I really do think that the LA Kings are going to make the playoffs this year, and they're going to be a dark horse in there. I think this is a team that in a 7-game series, they are going to be very hard to beat, especially if Drew Doughty comes back from the IR, because right now you have so much of your emerging talent in Brandt Clarke, a guy who is among one of the top defensemen in the league right now, Laferriere, a guy who's emerging, Kopitar, who's reaching back into that bag, and when you get another older guy like Drew Doughty coming in and they're in the playoff picture, they're going to be playing hard, and I think that, you know, they're going to be a dark horse this year in the playoffs. I think the West can go anywhere this season. I think there are a lot of good teams in the West. There are going to be a lot of upsets in this playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if LA Kings were one of those teams that upset another. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think about the LA Kings so far? Is there anything I missed about LA this season that I should know? Let us know down below in the comment section. But definitely you guys should be hyped on Brandt Clarke. This guy is going to be amazing this season. I think he's going to finish among top D-men in the league this season, barring injury. We got to keep our fingers crossed here because injury is so much in the NHL these days. So I want to hear your thoughts on the Kings down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. Like I said, we're almost about 200 away from our goal of 5,000. So if you're not subscribed, want to help us get us one more sub closer, we'd really appreciate it. And if you want to check out a video we did the other day, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, KC. Keep your stick on the ice.